G'day, good evening and welcome to tonight's live lesson. This is live lesson number 139 and in this lesson we're going to be looking at soca. So just before we get on to that, I hope everyone had a fantastic Christmas and if you don't celebrate Christmas, at least you had a happy day off or something like that. So anyway, I had a pretty terrible Christmas. I had stomach flu or gastro and was in bed all day. So I missed out on most of the festivities with my family, which was unfortunate, but it is what it is. So anyway, enough about all that stuff. I want to get straight into doing this lesson. Now, tonight's lesson is a basic lesson on soca. Now, the reason I've chosen to do this lesson is because I feel that this pattern in particular is very relevant in music in the last couple of years, especially when we start to get into the more summertime kind of music, pop music that comes out. And when you hear this groove, if you're not familiar with soca music, it originates from Trinidad, and it came from the 1970s, and it's heavily influenced by calypso music. And it's penetrated into South America, and then it's head up into Western music, which is where we probably hear it most often. And tunes like Hot 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 by Arrow, Justin Bieber, his version of Despacito that he did, and the what was the other one I was thinking of? It's a Sia song. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But you'll know the groove as soon as you hear it. So anyway, let's get straight into it. So what we're doing now, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. This isn't, as far as I know, all flat out traditional soca. These are just variations that I hear all the time in music, and this is a great starting point to get onto. I think the third one we're going to do is more of a traditional kind of soca, but I'm not an expert on Latin music. I just know what I need to play in gig situations, and these are variations of soca. So this first one we're doing, essentially we're going to be playing quarter notes on the hi-hat and quarter notes on the bass drum. And what gives the soca pattern the flavour or its signature is actually the snare pattern, which is basically 1 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. So it's that ga da 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 da, which gives soca its groove. So, and soca is a style of music. It's not a pattern, it's a style of music. So just keep that in mind. So let's play this first one. Like I said, it's just, so it's 1 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Now we'll do that with the click, and we'll do that nice and slow. And let me just bring up the click. So I'm thinking, maybe about 40. That's eighth notes, so 16th. To, let's do about 50. All right, so here we go. 3 E and a. Cool, so that was just the first one. Key for all this stuff is to take it super slow, count out loud, make sure those notes are in the right spot before you start to increase the speed and go a bit crazy with all this stuff. So moving on to the next one. So the next one's essentially the same thing. We're heading more towards that traditional soca pattern, and it's an eighth note now on the hi-hat. So instead of playing 1, 2 with the bass drum and hi-hat together, you're going to play twice as many notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1 E and 2. And we're going to play the same pattern. So here we go with that, again at 50 beats per minute. Cool, so again, just taking it real slow and counting out aloud, make sure you're placing it before you get faster. I will demonstrate these at the end much faster to give you an idea how they sound. The next one is probably one of the most common ones and more your standard traditional kind of soca. And when I say traditional, it's only been around since the 70s, so it's not like it's a couple of hundred years old or 1,000-year-old pattern that's been passed down through generations. It was literally came up with or made popular in the 1970s. So, and all you're going to do with this one is you play the same pattern as we did before, except on every downbeat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to open a hat, and every upbeat you're going to close on. So on the end you're going to close a hat. So it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I'll go side cam so you can see what's going on. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just on a little side note there, when I am lifting my foot, and I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. When I am lifting my foot, I'm not doing it like this, 1 and 2 and 3 and just because I find at the slower tempos, I end up really feeling it in my lower back here, okay? So when I'm playing it, I'm just like 1 and 2 and 3, so heel up to close, heel down to open. And it gives me more control of the hi-hat, more control of the hi-hat there when I go to open and close, okay? So it gives me like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I feel, because I'm not trying to have open hi-hat and heel up, you know, I'm not losing balance, I'm not putting too much pressure on. So maybe try and keep your, like, open and close your hi-hats, heel down, okay? So anyway, here we go with that. The third one, nice and slow, here we go. Excellent. So now moving on to the next one, the last one. This is the one that's going to actually change the most. So what we're doing is now this is almost making it like a disco-y kind of thing. And this is like that Sears song that I was talking about, Cheap Thrills, that's what it was called. It's got that kind of feel. So if you look up on iTunes, Sia Cheap Thrills, or on YouTube, that's what I'm talking about, that kind of feel. So what we're going to do with this one is we're bringing both hands up to the hi-hat and we're going to play 16th notes, starting with our right hand. So it's 1 E and R, 2 E and. So just a little tip, when you're playing 16th notes on the hi-hat, okay, and you're playing patterns like this, anything on one end is going to be your right hand. Anything on ER will be your left hand. So that first stroke is on the the R, so that'll be a left hand. And the second snare hit is on the right hand, on the and. So it'll be 1 E and R, 2 E and R, 3 E and R, 4 E and R, 1 E, R, 2 E and R, 3 E and R, 4 E and. So here we go with that one at 50 beats per minute. Awesome. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the lesson. Now remember with these, the challenge with that last one is going to be bringing the hands down and not tangling them up, okay? So take your time with it, slowly increase the speed. I'm going to play them all through again now at 120 beats per minute, and just to give you an idea of how they all sound, so at more usable tempos. So here we go. Cool, and that's it. And that's hopefully sheds a bit more light on the soca. And it sounds really cool. And surprisingly, it's not actually that difficult to get up to tempo and all that. I give it a lot to my early students, so the guys who have been playing for maybe around a year. That's why I put it in the basic lesson. And it's a really cool and relevant groove. And that's the thing, it's relevant to popular music at the moment. So that's why I think to myself, what should I be working on? And this kind of stuff is relevant to me because 99% of my work revolves on playing other people's music, and other people are doing these kind of grooves. So that's it. This is usually a time where we would take lessons, but this is actually a re-record because I lost yesterday's live lesson. So yeah, I know, what a grot, wearing the same clothes. Yeah. I just got up and I did the same thing. So please don't judge me too much. As always, if you do have any questions, please hit me up at info@intodrums.com, or you can ask your questions in other live lessons. Otherwise, alternately, you can ask your questions in your video submission. So when you submit a student review for me to review you, and you can ask questions there, and then I'll answer the questions in my video response. So far, so good with all that stuff. You guys are doing great, and what else? Yeah, the feedback I've been getting from that so far has been pretty good. If you do have any other feedback or lesson suggestions and stuff that you want to see in live lessons or pre-recorded lessons, please hit me up at info@intodrums.com, and I'll try and get those to you as soon as I can. On that note, we're going to wrap up. Have a fantastic week and happy practicing.